Welcome to the book study on the Quality Indicators for Assistive Technology, presented by the Special Education Technology Center. I'm Kristen Leslie. I'm an occupational therapist who has worked in the schools for the past 18 years. I'm also an assistive technology professional and currently the director of the Special Education Technology Center. And I'm one of the facilitators of this book study, and I have with me here Linda Daly.
I am an assistive technology specialist with the Special Education Technology Center. Before coming here, I was an AT specialist in a school district, and previous to that, I was a software engineer, so I have enjoyed bringing that technical knowledge to the field of special education and being able to use that as an AT specialist.
So Linda and I both have quite a bit of experience trying to implement assistive technology in the school systems, and we recognize the need for some procedures around assistive technology. And we have been in districts where we have built procedures, and so the Quality Indicators for Assistive Technology is one of the main resources we have used. And so when this book came out, we recognized that in the state of Washington, across districts, there's inconsistent practices, and there was a need for us to do this book study to get this information out to everyone. So we want to say a special thanks to the QIAT leadership team, which includes 11 educational professionals with extensive AT experience, and their names are listed here. This group started back in 1998, where a group of service providers gathered together to share common concerns about the complex issues and processes around assistive technology. And so they have conducted many online sessions, face-to-face summits, and other conferences around this issue of assistive technology procedures and practices, and have gathered information from over 4,000 AT providers across 17 countries and across the United States on issues around assistive technology.
And they have actually gathered from a variety of perspectives, ranging from students and families to school staff and policymakers. The QIAT community is a nationwide grassroots group that includes hundreds of individuals who provide input into the ongoing process of identifying, disseminating, and implementing a set of widely applicable quality indicators for assistive technology, also known as QIAT, services in school settings.
Before we dive into the details of the quality indicators for assistive technology, we wanted to just share with you a little bit about a local resource, the Special Education Technology Center, which is sometimes referred to as SETC for short. We provide training, consultation, technology loans, and resource information to help school districts and families effectively implement assistive technology. And so we're available to all school districts and families, and we're funded by OSPI. Here's just some bullet points on what our services are. We have a lending library, and we have districts all over the state borrowing technology from our lending library to trial with students. We provide, yes, Linda?
Don't we have over 4,000 pieces of equipment in our lending library?
Yes, we have 4,000 pieces of equipment that are loaned throughout the state.
And that includes laptops and iPads fully loaded with apps and software, correct?
Right, communication apps, software for students with learning disabilities, low-tech switches, switch toys, mounts, all sorts of lending library items. We also provide technical assistance and consultations. We have many teams throughout the state that call us up and ask us, tell us about a student and ask us to provide some input, so we can do that by phone, by webinar, or we come to the school district to help with those consultations. We provide professional development in the form of an annual conference and also webinars weekly that are free. We disseminate information about assistive technology through our website and also on our Facebook page and our YouTube website.
And as Kristen said, we are funded by OSPI. We are one of 5 state needs projects. The other 4 are the Washington Sensory Disability Services, which supports individuals aged birth to 21 who are deaf, hard of hearing, blind, visually impaired, or deaf-blind. The other one Another one of them is the e-learning for educators, which you are actually participating in right now by taking this book study. There's also the Center for Change and Transition Services. And one of the indicators will talk about transition services, and we will actually give this as a resource during that chapter. And then the fifth of the state needs projects that we're listing here, not that they're fifth in order, but just the way we've listed them, is the Special Education Support Center. All of the 5 state needs projects support special education in the state of Washington and are funded through OSPI.
So think about what assistive technology implementation looks like in your district. Do you have procedures in place for considering assistive technology for students with special needs? Do the IEP teams know how to consider assistive technology? The Quality Indicators for Assistive Technology book was created as a guide to support school districts in developing procedures for assistive technology, from consideration to assessment, how to put those accommodations in the IEP, and onward. So consider what this looks like in your district, and know that this book study is going to help you provide procedures for your district.
As you are considering who would benefit from this book study and learning about these processes, the audience that this book study could include would be everyone from your assistive technology service providers to your consumers, your parents, your students, also all the way up to universities and professional developers as they conduct research and deliver programs, and the policymakers that are actually attempting to develop judicious and equitable policies related to assistive technology services. When we are presenting this, we have in mind that primarily our audience will be school district personnel and IEP teams, so including parents and students. And the IEP team could include the teachers, the special education teachers, the general education teacher, the specialists who work with those students, the IT department. And all of those people are part of that team that deliver these AT services. When Kristen and I were looking at developing this, we actually come from more than one perspective. We are obviously service providers, but we are also parents of students who have benefited from special education services. I have a son who was in speech therapy from kindergarten through 3rd grade, and Kristen has 2 sons who have benefited from AT services.
Certainly, I was a service provider in assessing and implementing assistive technology. And then also, I am a parent of now he's a junior, with some fine motor difficulties, which necessitated some assistive technology for writing. And then I have a child who is 5 with autism. So certainly, right now, just low-tech kinds of communication supports, but certainly assistive technology will be considered throughout his education. So Linda and I come with these perspectives. Those of you who are service providers attending this course know that we understand those struggles of providing assistive technology, and so we'll come with that experience. So we wanted to just show you an overview of the chapters that we're starting out with Chapter 1, which gives you an overview of the quality indicators and the laws related to assistive technology, and we go right on to consideration, assessment, AT in the IEP, AT implementation, evaluation of the effectiveness of AT, AT in transition, administrative support of AT, professional development in AT, and then improving your AT services. So this book really covers it all in relation to assistive technology.
And the objective for this first chapter is really that the participants will gain an understanding of the laws pertaining to AT within the public schools. Participants will receive an overview of the quality indicators for AT, which we've been giving you even just in this introduction, and that you'll also learn about one of the great tools that's provided in this book, and that's the self-examination matrices that are provided for each one of these indicators, and they are a means to determine the effectiveness of the AT services that you provide for your team and as a team, so that you can look at those and see where you fall in a continuum. And we'll look at those in a little bit in a little more specific nature. So
for each chapter, Linda and I have chosen a quote from the chapter that just stood out to us. And so for this chapter, our kind of aha moment in reading the chapter was in this quote, that changes do not happen immediately, but rather we move towards the ideal in a series of steps that take place over time. And we really want you to keep that in mind as we go through each chapter, because it can be overwhelming, especially if you're in a district that does not currently have any procedures in place. And even if you do, it's challenging to get all the teams on board. So it can be overwhelming to think about, how do we make these changes? How do we put these procedures in place? Just know that you're making steps towards the ideal. We need to recognize that there are some commonly held beliefs about assistive technology that hinder our ability to move towards the ideal. And so we've listed some of these beliefs. AT is too expensive. We can't use AT on testing. AT takes too much time. I don't have access to AT. I am not qualified to make decisions about AT. My tech department doesn't support any AT. And this list goes on. This book study will address some of these beliefs by providing processes around assistive technology. So that should help in alleviating some of the concerns that these beliefs express. But also, regardless of beliefs held about AT, the reality is that the law requires us to consider assistive technology for each special education student. And so that's what we're moving on to, is the law, because no matter what we believe about assistive technology and how we feel about it, it is the law. The Individuals with Disability Education Act states that each public agency shall ensure that AT devices, AT services, or both are made available to a child with a disability if required as part of the child's special education, related service, or supplementary aids and services. So this is included in the law. IDEA further defines what assistive technology is. So here is the written definition of assistive technology. Assistive technology device means any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially, off the shelf, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capability of children with disability. So this can be a wide range of items, from a pencil grip and a slant board to sophisticated software, communication devices. AT services are also defined in IDEA. Any service that directly assists a child with a disability in the selection, acquisition, and use of assistive technology devices. We also have evaluation in IDEA defined. The evaluation of the needs of a child with a disability include a functional evaluation of the child in the child's customary environment. And there's one whole chapter dedicated to assessment evaluation, where you'll see that functional evaluation in that customary environment is so critical. The acquisition of assistive technology is also defined. Purchasing, leasing, or otherwise providing for the acquisition of assistive technology devices by children with disabilities. Customizing is another service, AT service. Selecting, designing, fitting, customizing, adapting, applying, maintaining, repairing, replacing assistive technology devices are all included in that. And certainly teachers, OTs, PTs, and speech therapists are all accustomed to this customizing process. Also, the coordination of AT services, so coordinating and using other therapies, interventions, or services with assistive technology devices, such as those associated with existing education or rehabilitation plans or programs. So all that coordination that goes into implementing assistive technology. Training is also addressed, and again, there's a whole chapter dedicated to professional development in the area of assistive technology in this book. But IDEA defines training or technical assistance for a child with a disability, or, if appropriate, that child's family. So including the service providers and the family in that.
And we wanted you to see all the different areas of AT services, because if you remember, the law says each public agency shall ensure that AT devices, AT services, or both are made available. So we wanted to really show you all the different areas of the AT services as defined by IDEA that really are required by law that we provide to our students.
So other laws that mention assistive technology are Section 504, and then we have Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So in Section 504, this is an additional mandate that students who do not receive specially designed instruction, so they do not have an IEP, but they may still need AT in order to access or participate in their education. So my son that I mentioned, who's a junior, falls into this category. He's not a special education student, yet his motor disability impacts his ability to participate in the written language portion of his curriculum. So this is a civil rights law that guarantees that no student with a disability will be excluded from participation in, or be denied benefit of, or be subject to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Then Americans with Disability Act, Title II, is also a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination on the basis of disability. So this requires that public schools provide appropriate auxiliary aids and services, which could be assistive technology, to afford equal opportunity to participate in and benefit from the agency's services or their programs and activities. We are just mentioning the Washington Administrative Codes here. Really, the language in the WACs mirrors that of IDEA, so we won't go into that, but we wanted to provide the links. So, literature reviews reveal that there's a significant and continuing gap between what is required by policy, so what is in the law, and what is consistently occurring in the educational settings. So this chapter speaks of that, and some of the points made are that there's an absence of systematic planning for delivery of AT services, so no procedures in place that help a district consistently implement assistive technology. Then insufficient opportunities for students and families to learn about it and try assistive technology, as well as differing perspectives and knowledge and skills for those who have a role in AT services in the school settings. So meaning that there are teams, perhaps across a district, across our state here in Washington, that have differing perspectives and knowledge, and some teams are more equipped than others to address assistive technology, which means there's a gap between what is provided maybe in one district or one school versus another district or school.
So in order to help close that gap between what's in policy and what is in practice, that is what this book looks to help you do as school district teams. And so what we're doing today is just the quality indicators overview chapter, and it's talking about the law and things, but then each of the other chapters will look at each of the indicators that have been shown as what we need to address to effectively implement our AT services within the school district. So we'll look at, in the next several weeks, we'll look at chapters 2 through 10, going through each of the quality indicators individually, and each one of those chapters is structured in a similar manner. Each one will state the quality indicator to be addressed. It will proceed with corresponding intent statements, so a little further development statement of what that quality indicator is addressing and how it's addressing it. lots of examples. The chapters have lots of concrete examples of how people have addressed these indicators, have struggled to address them, and how they've used the different indicators to help them implement AT in a better and more effective manner. One of the things that each chapter has is a self-evaluation matrix for each of the indicators addressed. And so this will give IEP teams, school teams, the ability to actually look at those matrices and see how well they fit on that continuum. So each of you can do it as individuals, teams, or agencies, and you can determine where your current services fall within a range of unacceptable to exemplary practices. And then we will show you where you can just do a quick summary and put that information on that summary sheet, and you can all be on the same page about where you need to move forward. These matrices provide a quick reference to consider strengths versus areas in need of improvement and prioritize areas for improvement. And so when you're using these, you can also then on each chapter, we're going to have those matrices and the examples. And then we'll also have some suggested activities as well as resources. And we will give you places that you can download those. And so we're really hoping that you will have a complete package of here's the indicators, here's the examples of how those indicators are met or how people have struggled and then met them. And then you will have the matrix so that you can evaluate yourself on your team on that. And then also some suggested activities for how you can move forward. At this point, we'd like to actually take you to the website that we keep referring to. QIAT.org is the website, and QIAT is QIAT, Quality Indicators for Assistive Technology. And everything that we are going to go over in this book is actually on the website. So if you have not purchased the book, you can still get the information and you can still go ahead and look at it through their website. The first thing I want to show you on their website is the indicators. So each one of the chapters in the book reflects an indicator and talks about an indicator. So we can go to their indicators page and you can see each of the indicators is listed here, and those go along with the same chapters that we told you we're going to cover in the next several weeks. You can also find the matrices for each of those indicators. I'm going to go ahead and show you one of these matrices so that you can see what it is when we're talking about it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and shrink this down because I have one actually pulled up for you. So here's the quality indicators for consideration of assistive technology needs. And so the first indicator on that topic is assistive technology devices and services are considered for all students with disabilities regardless of type or severity of disability. And then they show you practices from unacceptable through promising and exemplary. So AT is not considered for students with disabilities, all the way to AT is considered for all students with disabilities, and the consideration is consistently based on the unique educational needs of the students. So it's just that continuum, and you can evaluate yourself on how well your agency or team is doing. And they have this for each of the indicators. And so you will be able to find that on that website. So I just wanted to show you what that looked like, and then we'll go back and look at the website some more because I want to show you how the website is set up and how you can find the different resources. Each resource is usually in Word and PDF format, so you can use that and whichever way you prefer to download it. Your documents links are over here on the right on this page. We have the QIAT list if you want to join their listserv, and one of the things that this is great for is that you can actually get information from other people on the list. There's a listserv with just a question bank that continues on. So the other thing is their resources, and I want to show you this one because you go to resources and then there's a resource bank or a resource home. The resource bank is actually a resource bank that all the people on the QIAT listserv can join and send resources, which is a great thing. So people put their resources up here. So it's just a storehouse of resources that people have added so that you can have the advantage of people from all over the world that have shared their resources. And then the other thing, though, that I want you to see is if you go to resources and then resources home, you are going to find all the guiding documents for the QIAT indicators. So you have a guiding document for including assistive technology in the IEP, a guiding document for implementation. This is, again, the guiding document. It's the background, it's the information. And then you have QIAT in Action, which will be worksheets that you can use to develop your processes. I'm not going to show you all these today because we're going to show you each of these as we go through the different indicators. And so as we get to the different indicators, we will show you that this is where you'll go to get those planning documents that will walk you step by step how to make a process for those different indicators. But I just wanted to point out the website and show you how to get to it because it's under resources and then it's resources home. And then you have resource bank here. You can also have it right here. You can submit a document, and then there's also useful links you may find. Announcements, and then about the QIAT leadership team and about QIAT itself. So that's the QIAT website. That will always be a resource that we will show you in each chapter because that's the main resource we're using.